this is a tool I never use anymore because digital. So I thought, what the hell, for this week's episode, might as well start something with the pencil. Dust off the good old sketchbook and see how much damage we can do. Nah, screw this. I'm going back in. It's way too cold outside. Alright, now I have a drawing that is okay. I can work with it at least. It's not amazing and there's a couple of stuff that I need to tweak, but I don't have an eraser, so I need to bring in Photoshop. So that's what I'll do. I'm gonna take a quick photo of it, nothing fancy. I don't have a scanner, so the photo will do. Bring that in Photoshop and we'll take it from there. And there she is, digitalized. So now I'm gonna pop a new layer on top of the background layer, and that's going to be my what will be my main layer. That's where I'll have the clean version of the lines. And for this one, the background, I'm gonna kind of just brighten it up a little bit so that it's not as visible, so that it's just like, watch, I'll just do it now. Control U, and you go here, lightness, all the way up. Now I'm just gonna paint over everything and hopefully figure out the design as I go. I've got like some sort of an idea of what I want to do, but most of it is still pretty rough. What I like in here, I like the head area. I like the pose. This leg here is probably going to go something like the line of action. I'll use probably something more like head here. And then the leg like this, and then the other leg, you know, something like this, and then arm here, and then the other one, something like this. So that would be kind of like the pose that I use. So very similar to the one I have already, but it's just like this leg here instead of having it curved. It doesn't work too well. This one should fill up the page a little bit better, at least in theory. pretty much done with this character, this drawing, at least the drawing part. So I'm gonna be adding colors, Wednesday. But as far as this is concerned, I'm pretty happy with it. It looks, the composition works. The design is almost there. Like I like the shapes. I like the silhouette. As far as the pose wasn't random. So it's I have kind of like this spiral going on. So something like this. And this helps the read. It helps guide the eye. So I don't have much details here because there's not much. I don't want people to kind of like hang around here when they look at it. I want people to focus right around the face. That's the focal point basically of this particular drawing. And now like the pose, I like it. There's a couple things that I'll probably change. The like maybe this hand here and this hand, or I'm not sure yet. The thing in the back here, I have no freaking idea what that is. I will figure it out at some point, hopefully. Yeah. Other than that, I kind of like her style. It's not really. It's a little bit different than what I do. It's a little bit more stylized than what I do normally. But yeah, why not? So what I would do for this to start coloring is I would just grab the random brush, doesn't matter which one, and I would just go here, select multiply blend mode, and then just paint over it like this. And yeah, you just add the different colors that you want. And that's it. So that brings me to Q&A. So one question that I get a lot is, why do I work on a single layer? And there is a reason to that, but the reason might not be what you expect. So basically the reason why I do that is I like the style that it subtly adds to the final product. And by that I mean, imagine if you have like a traditional paint and you're painting and then you make a mistake. You basically have to paint over whatever you were doing. And when you do that, it's very rare that you cover everything perfectly. So you'll paint over things and then there'll be like some remains of like brush strokes that are very, very subtle. Most of the time, like, it's not always, but like oftentimes the final result of doing this over and over and over and like painting over it and then like doing corrections over on the same layer, you kind of get these like ghost brush strokes in the background that you can hardly see, but they're still kind of there, and that I really like the look. And it's something that's very subtle, but that's the main reason why I do work on a single layer. So there are other benefits, obviously. There are some cons, so let me go through those. Benefits that I see, it forces you to have confidence in whatever you're doing, because there's no layers that you can quickly tweak without having to change everything else. So whenever you decide, whatever decisions you make when you make the painting have a much bigger impact, because if you mess it up, then it's a lot more work to go and kind of fix it. Another benefit is that it keeps the files pretty light. My Photoshop never crashes because I have a single layer, so even though the layer might be really, really big, I don't have a bunch of crap like on top of each other, with, like layers affecting other layers and all this stuff. So my file is super simple, which makes Photoshop simple, because Photoshop is... So as far as benefits, that's pretty much all I can think of. The negative parts obviously is that you can't go back, and let's say somebody tells you to change something or you want to change something, it's a little bit harder to go back and make variations or tweak things, and that is a bad thing if you're working in a production, obviously. So when I used to work, I would never do that. I would have a bunch of layers with different things, and you make sure that if somebody asks you to do something different or change a particular thing or change colors or change this or that you can do it quickly and as quickly as possible. What I do when I use a single layer is for personal stuff, so I know the decision in the end, they're all going to be made by me. I'm going to be the final judge of the painting, and it's going to be that. So but yeah, if you're going to have to change a few things, or if you're not sure, use layers. There's no reason not to, other than forcing you to develop confidence when you don't. But really, I've used layers for a very very long time, and I mean they're there for a reason, right? They have their benefits. So I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Another question that comes back is people wondering if they're too old to start art, or they're freaking out because they're not, you know, they're in like their 20s or 30s or whatever, and they're just starting, and they're wondering or they're thinking that by the time they get good enough, they'll be really old and nobody is gonna give a crap about them, and they're never gonna find a job. And that is true and wrong depending how you look at it. So the age thing doesn't really matter. So, you know, as far as hiring people, most companies hire people of any age. It really doesn't matter. So you can hire somebody that's really really young if he's got a lot of experience, or somebody that's really really old if they're really really good, and of course have a lot of experience too. So the thing that you should be thinking about when you're starting and you're a little bit older is it's all about the amount of hours that you're able to put in to practice, right? So when you're younger, basically what it comes down to is that those hours are a little bit easier to put in. You don't have much responsibilities. If you live with your parents, that's even better. You don't have bills to pay. You don't have kids that you have to support, or you know, like a wife that you have to support, or anything like that. And it makes finding those hours, or like putting, you know, a lot of time into the art a lot easier. When you get older, there's just all this stuff that keeps piling up, and it's easy to feel demotivated when you have like this extra weight on your shoulders, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't have time. There's always ways to find time. You know, I've talked to many people about this, and a lot of them that they're making it work, and it's just, you know, they have like the craziest schedules. They have like they're working 2 or 3 jobs, and still somehow they find enough time. And by that I mean, by enough time, I mean, you know, multiple hours a day. That's how much you should be practicing. If you're young or old, it really doesn't matter. But if you're old, you know, like it's bullshit. It's kind of like a guideline if you want to have some sort of an idea how long from being complete shit to being, you know, hireable, whatever. About, you know, 4 to 5 hours a day. If you do that for 2.5 years to 3 years, you should be in a position to be hired if you started from nothing. And that's a lot of time, alright? So, you know, 5 hours a day, every day. You don't skip, right? It's every day. If you skip a day, the next day you have to do 10. And those 5 hours every week, you know, every month, they add up. If you're really old, just know that in 3 years, you know, if you put crazy amount of time into this, you'll probably be in a really good spot. Of course, you know, it depends how well you study and what you study, and if you practice things that are completely unrelated. Of course, that's gonna, you know, make that period of time a little bit longer, maybe a lot longer. But if you find the right resources, if you find the right people to help you, and you're studying and, you know, practicing in a smart way, 3 years is a reasonable amount of time for anybody. Yeah, so, you know, you can calculate that amount of time, you know, 3 years, 5 hours a day, what that means for, you know, if you're working 2 hours a day, or if you're working 1 hour a day. You know, the number of years just grows and grows and grows. So personally, what I was doing when I was a kid, not a kid, but when I was younger, I had the privilege of living with my parents, so I didn't have bills to pay, and I could spend pretty much all the time I wanted, you know, painting, other than of course going to school and doing homeworks. But that meant that I would spend like 6, 7, sometimes more hours a day just painting. So of course I wouldn't do it every day, but yeah, like back then that was a lot of time. So it's a lot of hours. There was a big period of growth for me in my early career because of that, because I was, you know, in that position where I could spend all that time. So anyways, going back to the age thing, the age doesn't matter. It's just the amount of time and how fast you're willing or able to put in practice hours. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed the drawing. Don't miss out on Wednesday. I'll be coloring the whole thing and finishing it up. Make sure you subscribe. See you guys on Wednesday.